In this video, we are going to be looking at the origin, beliefs, and patterning behind brain fog. This is a follow-up from a podcast episode, an article that I uploaded over at the Odyssey of Self. If you would like to go further with this to gain access to the full articles from Messages from the Body by Dr. Michael Lincoln, as well as actionable steps to work through the patterns of brain fog, I will leave a link below that you can follow through, and you can join us over at the Odyssey of Self. But this video is going to give a light overview of what causes brain fog, what is at the true origin of brain fog. And I did highlight this also in the Odyssey of Self, where I spoke to how much change that I have created in my mental functioning. Now, my neural pathways, my brain functioning, my awareness, my clarity has all shifted tremendously because of this work. I have not taken supplements. I have not done any kind of work. I do meditate, but I have not really done anything else to shift my mental functioning, my internal clarity to the way that it is from anything else outside of this work. And it took me a long time to understand how this works. And I think I've mentioned this maybe in another video before, but years of being a competitive cyclist in my past life, in this lifetime anyway, I had suffered a severe head injury. Now, I had actually suffered a few concussions outside of that one, but I also had a very, very difficult time processing information. I had a very difficult time speaking. I would stutter. I had a hard time speaking fluidly and thinking clearly. And there was just a lot of mess in this area. So I went into this work of Dr. Michael Lincoln, who spent 30 years studying and researching the correlation between behavioral patterns, the beliefs behind them, and the origin of the formative impacts causing this web and this chain reaction of events within our system, eventually transpiring within our physical self, within our body. And this body of work has been so monumental and pivotal for the change that I've experienced while I'm now sharing it with you. So if you think about how our body works from the context of a chain of events within ourself that happens, when we experience life in our formative years, we form perceptions, we form beliefs, we form patterns that are buried deep, 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 deep within. And those patterns eventually create disruption in how we see and perceive and how we relate to life. It also can create great disruption in how we behave and maneuver through life. And this happens all in the unseen aspects of ourself. It's very difficult to see and very difficult to understand. So I'm doing my best to offer some clarity with how this works. But brain fog, for example, comes from a belief and patterning of the past. Now, there are going to be other external environmental factors to brain fog. For example, in the area that I live, there's very low air pressure in the winter, and sometimes it's very difficult for me to think clearly or to function clearly. So there can be some environmental factors that will play into this. But in our modern society, as soon as we feel different, as soon as we feel like we aren't functioning to our full capacity, we immediately switch to supplements, or we try to fix things, or we try to even push through, which doesn't work. And I've done it and I've tried it all. Trust me, it only makes things worse because we aren't listening to our deeper self. I'm going to be leaving timestamps if you would like to skip ahead at a later date. I'm going to be talking about the behavioral characteristics, so some of the behaviors that are associated with this particular symptom. Also looking at where this came from, where it originated, what are the family patternings that were passed down that create brain fog. I'm also going to be looking at the false beliefs that will be created through the formative experiences, and then the true beliefs to counter them, and then how to heal. Again, timestamps are below if you would like to skip ahead at any time. So first, we're going to look at behavioral characteristics. And behaviors are almost the end result of what has been buried deep within ourselves. So you can think of, if our thoughts create our emotions, then our emotions inspire actions. We behave in certain ways. We are responsive, we're impulsive, we hold ourselves back, we protect ourselves. Those are all behavioral responses to something deeper within ourselves. But we tend to look external for the reason of how we're behaving. I'm stressed, I'm anxious because I have too much work or too much is being demanded of me. But if we have a belief within ourselves that I am unable to manage stress, or I'm unable to manage life, or there's too much demanded of me, which may have been an experience from early life, we tend to distort the lens and then project it outward into our environment to create the story that matches the internal pain that we're harboring. So the lens becomes very distorted when we're carrying these beliefs within ourselves that have been brought through from early life. They end up taking a life of their own, and then we see life through certain lenses, and we start to basically react to life that way, right? So we tend to look external as the causation of how we're feeling internally, which actually the external world is constantly mirroring the beliefs that we have within ourselves, the reactions that we have within ourselves, the stressors, the impulsivity, the fear, the reaction, the criticism, all comes from our deeper belief system that we have within ourselves. It just takes a little while to see, but when you start seeing how it works, everything will change. So the behavioral characteristics that will be related with brain fog will be a persistent self-doubt, guilt, and uncertainty about one's capabilities, often feeling unseen or unappreciated. The mind struggles to find clarity, creating hesitation or overthinking. The next is difficulty processing information, analyzing situations, or separating useful insights from the noise. This can show up as indecision, mental fatigue, or spinning thoughts. Another behavioral characteristic can be feeling disoriented or disconnected from purpose, as if life is confusing or overwhelming. The body mirrors this with low energy, tension, or a sense of heaviness. And then finally, there could be patterns of over-accommodation, people-pleasing, or trying to control outcomes to gain approval, often rooted in inconsistent or conditional care during childhood. All right, so we're going to look at the origin cause in a moment. And the origin cause is the family patterns that are passed down, so where it originated in the first place. But these behaviors come from an experience of our formative years. So, for example, our child upbringing. And these behavioral characteristics will be commonly associated with brain fog. And brain fog is the final outcome of these web of circumstances, or the chain reaction of events, I should say, that are occurring within our body. You can almost think if we have dormant beliefs that we're not doing enough or our environment is unsafe, then we are going to respond to life in certain ways. And these are the behavioral characteristics that will be related to brain fog when we're feeling discombobulated, when we're feeling that maybe we aren't doing things right, or maybe we feel unsafe on a very deep level. So our brain is going to naturally respond to our beliefs that we have not addressed yet. When we look at the origin cause, this is the original imprinting from family patterns that are passed down. First of all, try not to get frustrated when going into the original causation of these patterns, because they are passed down. These are societal, they're ancestral, they come down, passed down from the family line. So I know we can look at our family and get very discouraged and resentful to our upbringing and to our past, and I've been there. But when we really unpack this, the patterns come from long ago, and they come from societal impacts. So it's not necessarily the parents' fault for the way that they had been raised and they have been conditioned and what they have brought into the family life, right? These are simply patterns that have been interwoven within the fabric of our being that has been passed down and passed down and passed down. And by observing these through the lens of compassion and curiosity, we get to break these patterns and restore balance within ourselves, and not only balance, but wholeness and truth and authenticity. So that'll also come into the true and false beliefs when I move further along. But we're now going to look at the origin cause of where this started. Some of the origin imprinting could come from growing up in a family where experiences were invalidated, confusing, or inconsistent, creating mistrust of one's own perception. So, if a child was raised in an environment where behavior was inconsistent or they were invalidated and there was a lot of confusion, that patterning would be embedded deep within themselves. Therefore, the perception on how they see life will remain the same in some kind of way, that life is confusing, that I haven't been validated, that I am unseen and I am not capable of X, Y, and Z. So if a child had not been validated in any kind of way, they will be feeling very fragmented with the confidence and alignment with them. Therefore, constantly feeling that they're doing things wrong, or that they always have to improve themselves, or maybe that they always have to prove themselves as well. But if there has been inconsistency in a family environment of any kind, there's going to be inconsistency wired within the unconscious. And that inconsistency is going to send patterns and signals that the world is inconsistent, life is inconsistent, maybe unsafe. There could be also a level of destabilization within oneself, constantly looking for threats and flaws and things to be aware of. So that can also connect with or relate with hypervigilance. So if there again is confusion within early life, the confusion is going to naturally take a life of its own within oneself as a pattern. Another origin cause can be suppressed emotions such as frustration, grief, or longing that were unsafe to express, leaving the mind reactive rather than clear. Suppressed emotions are extremely difficult and can feel very familiar, especially if we feel safe holding our emotions in. So, if we weren't able to express our emotions in any kind of way in childhood, we will get used to holding our emotions in. And held emotions, stored emotions, create a lot of complications within the body, within the psyche, within the whole self. It also creates a very strong fragmentation and fracturing of self if we do not feel open to feel and to express our emotions and to be vulnerable, etc. So there almost may need to be a complete rewiring with this one, which I've gone through, which really does unfortunately require to unpack the emotional self, to go right into the emotions and to get real about how one feels and to get real with interpreting feelings and interpreting vulnerabilities. And then once those are interpreted and understood, then balance can be restored. Another cause can be early environments that demanded adaptation and vigilance, shaping reactive thought patterns and mental fog. If a child had to adapt to an unstable, unpredictable family environment, their central nervous system naturally is going to be out of whack. Right? And so that can burn the system out. That can also create a lot of mental rumination or hypervigilance that will naturally wear the mind down and create a lot of confusion within the mind. So you can even think in our society, when we feel confused, when we're not functioning properly, we naturally turn to some kind of external solution, supplements, coffee, stimulants, powering through. But what this does when we're looking for external solutions is it ends up wearing us down even more because we're not understanding where this came from in the first place and reach the origin cause to heal that first. And the final one can be a sense of being lost or disconnected from purpose due to over-enmeshment, chaos, or lack of guidance in formative years. So if a child wasn't able to discover themselves for themselves, they can naturally feel lost in a constant, perpetual state of searching to find themselves, to search for who they are, or be confused with their relationship with life, their relationship with self. So if they grew up in an environment where there was enmeshment, maybe over-parenting, a lot of smothering and control, or even chaos or lack of guidance, it can create a very strong fracturing within self of understanding oneself and feeling confident with who they are and feeling clear with maybe their direction in life. Next, we're going to look at false beliefs with true beliefs to counter. False beliefs are formed during our formative years through observation, through direct experience, through passed down patterns, through passed down beliefs of any kind. Also, what we observe in our environment, there could be many different factors that form false beliefs. And false beliefs are not our true, pure authentic beliefs, although they feel to be true if we can't see them. False beliefs can feel very true because we're used to living with them all our life, but our true beliefs are at our core. These true beliefs are based on our authentic self, are based on our truth, are based on our purity, but they become overshadowed by all these experiences we go through since our formative years, and it kind of takes a life of its own. But when we start looking at our false beliefs and peeling them away one by one, we become connected with our true beliefs, which become strengthened and awakened. And the strengthened and awakened true beliefs become our true, authentic, powerful self. So an example of a false belief in this case will be, I am not capable or competent enough. The true belief that will be aligned with your true, pure self will be, I am fully capable and able to trust my mind's clarity. Another false belief will be, my thoughts are unreliable. I cannot trust my perception. A true belief in this case will be, my mind is naturally clear and insightful. I can discern truth with practice. Another false belief or brain fog will be, life is confusing and overwhelming. I must adapt endlessly. The true belief to counter will be, I can navigate life with calm, clarity, and confidence. And then finally, another false belief will be, I must earn approval to feel safe or valued. The true belief in alignment with your true, pure, authentic self will be, I am inherently worthy and I can trust my inner guidance. Next, we're going to look at how to heal. These are very introductory steps for how to heal, basically rewriting some of these beliefs, creating awareness within ourselves is also going to be very healing and very transformative. But if you're wanting to go deeper into this and understand the true nature of these patterns, the origin, causation, and what it can be creating in your life, also deeper steps for how to heal, you can follow the link through over to the Odyssey of Self for the article on brain fog so you can take self-mastery and self-healing into your own hands. The first one, of course, as always, is awareness heals. Notice moments of mental fog or confusion and connect them to early experiences, beliefs, and patterns. Awareness is the key to healing, transformation, transmutation, reaching your true self. When you're aware of some of the behavioral patterns, the correlation between beliefs and patterning, unpacking all of this, you're going to slowly reach some aspects of yourself that you haven't been able to see before. And that alone creates an incredible shift in your life. That's the power of this work. It really is simple. Seems a bit complicated because we're used to tangible results, quick fixes in our society. This takes a bit of a different approach, but it's extremely powerful when you really get into it. The next is going to be safely expressed, suppressed emotions through journaling, movement, or creative outlets, allowing the mind and body to release tension. You can even exercise expressing suppressed emotions safely and comfortably with people around you to start to feel comfortable expressing what you haven't been able to express before. Being vulnerable and being open requires a whole new practice. And trust me, I get it. It is very difficult, especially if you've been used to protecting yourself and guarding yourself and feeling uncomfortable expressing your deeper emotions and feelings and your deeper truths. However, when you start opening up the pathway, communication happens easier. You feel safer communicating your truth. Relationships become deeper and more meaningful, and it changes everything in your life. The next is offer compassion to your unmet childhood needs, acknowledging grief and uncertainty, and giving yourself the support you lacked. This also falls under reparenting. You can even venture back into your childhood through meditation, reflection, journaling, and reparent your child in the moment where it felt unsafe, where it wasn't able to express, where it felt confused and maybe things felt a bit chaotic. Allow your child to feel safe in those environments. Allow your child to feel open in those environments. Allow your child's self to feel true in these environments of the past. So you can venture back and maybe create a safe environment in the past, rewrite some of the stories, and bring it into your present as far as what have been the correlating patterns from the past in the present moment, and how can you rewrite them in the present moment by understanding the past. And then finally, cultivate mental clarity through grounding, mindful routines, rest, breath work, and healthy boundaries, building trust in yourself and the world. Mental clarity does not come through force. It does not come through supplements. It does not come through biohacking. It comes through feeling safe and clear within yourself first. And actually, firstly, understanding where the lack of safety and the lack of clarity came from in the first place. When you unpack the shadow aspect first, you're naturally going to create a powerful shift within yourself. This is the most powerful work you can do, and it doesn't require biohacking. It doesn't require supplements. All it requires is tuning in and creating safety within yourself, grounding, connecting with your breath, returning to self. When we've gone through our traumas and our difficulties in early life, we can commonly disassociate from our body altogether. We're conditioned to live in an externalized world, pointing the fingers externally, looking at external situations as the reason for why we're sick and unwell and confused and having brain fog in this case. But everything in our outer environment is trying to show us what's happening within ourselves on a deeper level. And when we're able to reverse some of these effects and return to the groundedness, to the stillness, to the peace within, everything else starts to respond as a result. The mind starts to respond as a result. The body starts to respond as a result. The emotional self starts to respond as a result. So by understanding these origin factors, we're going right to the source of it all. All right, so that is it. That is all for brain fog. If you have any questions at all, please leave them below. I'm going to be uploading more videos as I go along. There are going to be additional resources, of course, at the Odyssey of Self as I'm building a massive library for patterns in the body and psychological patterns. So you can access this for only $8 a month. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out at any time. And I'm wishing you all the best on your journey and beyond. Until next time, take care.